All right, let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai,
All right, let's start by saying
Ba'ashem,
Hashem
Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is What Will Happen to People Outside of America That Take the M.O.T.B. I just got a call from Elder Pastor Tahar. We were just talking for a little bit. And pretty much he had mentioned, some videos he was doing and some videos he was watching. And he said he was watching a video with the Elder Yakanan out of the UK, and the brother said that, when the people around the world that take the M.O.T.B. or the micro C-hip are going to be all burned up in that fire. And that's not the case. We know the brother's sincere. So, we're not, getting down on the brother, just, letting them know that, we don't know exactly what's going to happen to these people around the world. Because Elder Pastor made a very great point because, you're going to have Edomites and people of the other nation, Moabites, Elamites, Ishmaelites, Hamites, other people that's going to take that, micro C-hip worldwide, and they're not going to be destroyed because, like he said, where are we going to get our slaves from? We're going to need our slaves from around the world. And we know that the whole earth is not going to be destroyed because when we go to Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, and the fourth verse, it says, one generation passeth away and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. So the earth is always going to be here. And Yahweh Bashem Yahushai set up and established this earth to be inhabited by man and to be used as a service for man. This is the book of Psalms, the 115th chapter and the 16th verse. It says, the heaven and the heavens are the Lord's, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, but the earth hath he given to the children of men. Right? So the earth was created, so that, we could be here, inhabit it, be fruitful and multiply, cultivate it, protect it, watch it, so on and so forth. So the earth is always going to be here. People are always going to be here. And you're going to have roughly, because, the elder pastor asked me a question, what percentage of people around the world you think is going to take the micro C-hip? I said about 85, 90. He said more like 95% of the earth is going to take it. But the scriptures only speak about, Babylon the Great, America being destroyed, and the land of Israel being destroyed by nuclear fire, not the whole entire planet. There's going to be a great earthquake. You're going to have buildings falling. You're going to have people getting jacked up all over the world. But as far as the judgment of the lake of fire, that's relegated to America. Now the land of Israel and those regions around there, they're relegated to get destroyed too. But the main lake of fire is going to be here in America. And you're going to have survivors around the world, that's going to, lament for Babylon. As it says in Revelation 18, it says, Revelations 18 and 7, I'm sorry, 8, I'll start at 7. How much he hath glorified himself and lived deliciously, right? Because America is prided on luxuries. That's why when you read further down, the word for you had the word for, matter of fact, dainties, and you had the word for, where is it? You had the word for dainties. Let me see. All the fruits are lusted, things are right. Dainty, which is liparos, which is lipos, which is fats. The SAD, standard American diet, which consists of burgers, fries, bread, cookies, cakes, donuts, so on and so forth. Lots of refined sugar, lots of processed food. These are all fats. That's why the average American is so huge, right? It says, and goodly. So when you look up this word goodly, it goes to the Greek word lampros, which means luxury, like luxurious in dressing. And when you go to the book of Jeremiah 51 it speaks about Shishak. Now, Shishak is another name for Babylon, and Shishak pretty much means fine linen. So these America is, symbolically known as a woman that's arrayed in fine linen. And this place has been the place or the country or the corporation that has made all of these other nations rich. And they want to come here by reason of her costliness, as it says in the book of Revelation 18 also. So going back to Revelation 18:7, how much she have glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow and shall see no sorrow. Right. This is dealing with America specifically, Babylon the Great. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. For strong is the Lord power who judgeth her. Right. So the place where the lake of fire is going to be brought to, or judgment of the lake of fire going to be brought to, is America, Babylon the Great. So anyone on the soils of America that takes the microchip, any Edomite, other nations, Jake that's here, when those missiles hit, they're going to be toast. So anyone here in the soils of America that takes it, they're going to be the ones that's going to be burnt in that fire, because that was the judgment that was set up for this place, America, Babylon the Great, not all around the world. Because in order for the people, 95 plus people, or 95% plus people around the world to be engulfed by flames by taking this microchip, that means there will be no survivors. The only ones that will survive would be the elect beamed up into the chariots. That means the whole planet, damn near would be wiped out, except for people that are still living in jungles, the primates, people that are still living, like they were thousands of years ago. You see? So, like I said, the brother, we know the brother sincere. We're just, us. We see something that's wrong and we address it. The elder pastor called me. We were talking about a few things. He mentioned it, and they told me to do a video. So I just wanted to jump on it just to let you know that that's not the case. And we don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to read a little bit more, and then I'm going to get into a couple of other precepts. It says, for strong is the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, who judgeth her, right? Judgeth her, not the whole entire planet. It says, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. See? So we need slaves. And you got to remember, it ain't just Jake that's going to take the M.O.T.B, the microchip. You're going to have many different nations, all these different nations around the world that are locked into the grid, this digital grid, are all going to take this microchip. The only ones that's not going to take it are the elect, So if that's the case, that would mean that we will have no slaves, because all the people on the planet, that are locked into this system would be burnt up. And that's not the case. But, we're one thing we spoke about was we're in the analytical stage where we're analyzing things and bringing things, bringing more clarity to certain prophecies, to certain breakdowns, and just in general, just more like scrutinizing in more fine detail, the things that we've gone over for years and years and years and years, So when you analyze it like that, that, it's impossible for all of the people on the planet that take the microchip, which is the M.O.T.B, to be burnt up, because you're going to have a lot of nations, even outside of Israel, the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, that's going to take that M.O.T.B, so they're not going to be burnt up, because where are we going to get our slaves from, So says stand on the far off for the fear of a judgment, saying, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. So this is the main place of judgment, and the land of Israel is going to be wiped out because of the corruption that's there, and the pretty much the abominations and the things that are that are there, and the pretty much the land is polluted. So the Lord got to revamp that, but that's going to be rebuilt. So the people here in America that take the microchip, that's their judgment, the fiery, judgment of the lake of fire. Around the world, we don't know what's going to happen to them, but we know that fire is not going to engulf all of these different places, because if that was the case, then the majority of the planet is going to take it. So that would mean that the whole earth would have to be on fire. You know, um, it says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. Right. And we know that because you have individuals out there that try to say that Babylon the Great is talking about, the Vatican. And the reason why they say that is because the Vatican was built on the seven hills of Rome, so on and so forth. And the woman had seven heads and 10 horns. And that's not what that's talking about. Because the people around the world are not getting rich. They're not bringing ships to the ports of, the Vatican, to get rich all over the earth. But what the place that is, known for their, shipping, the shipping dockyards on the East Coast, the West Coast, and in the Gulf of Mexico, which this devil Trump renamed America. That's where all of these different nations are getting their wealth from, because at one time these nations didn't have it like that. But what they did was they invested, their money into shipping, sending their stuff here, importing their stuff from their country here, and pretty much getting rich. This is why they were able to build their infrastructure. This is why they were able to build up their arsenal. And that's why the scriptures say that, our doubt becomes as weak as we. Let the weak say that I am strong. How did they become strong? By all of the amount of money that they made from America that they took and invested into their country's military and their ammunition, their weapons, so on and so forth, and also the infrastructure of their countries. All right. It says, we're gonna stop there. And like I said, we don't know what's gonna happen to the people around the world that take the micro CHIP, but we know they're not gonna be burnt up, because remember, you have a lot of heathen that's gonna take this micro CHIP around the world, and we need slaves, So where are we gonna get our slaves from? All right. So let's go to 1 Corinthians 13 and 9. It says, for we know in part and we prophesy in part. Right. And that's why we have 100% truth of what was made known and available to us. The other part that's not known is going to be revealed when Yahweh Shai comes back. The things that we don't know, that we know in part, like right now, we just know we have 100% truth from what is written, from what is revealed to us. The Lord says, surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth the secrets unto his servants, the prophets. But as far as every little detail of what's going to happen worldwide and everything, the judgment of these people that take the micro CHIP, around the world, what's going to happen to Esau after he burns up 1,000 years, after 1,000 years of captivity in the kingdom. We don't know about those things. We can only speculate, but we know definitely we need slaves. And these other nations, that the majority of the planet, at least 95% of the planet is going to take that, because at least 95 to 98% of the planet is on this grid. They're on this grid. There's few remote areas around the world that do not have, any form of electricity or any form of internet. But even small countries have it. But you have certain individuals that don't have it. So they're not going to be involved in this whole digital system, because the infrastructure doesn't exist in the little villages or huts or wherever that they live in their primary states. And that's beautiful. That's another precept I had lined up. Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things belong unto the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai, our power. But those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. So there are certain things that's revealed to us. The scriptures say that surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth the secrets unto his servants, the prophets. But then again, the Most High is the Most High. So there's things that he knows that we don't know about. There's things that he knows that Yahweh Shai doesn't know about. And that's how you know they're two separate entities. All right, so let's look up this word secret things here, see what it says. Secret things, a secret. The word is sathar. And the word sathar means to hide, conceal, right? So the secret things that are concealed, that are hidden, we don't know about that, because it's not meant for us to know about that. We know a lot more than the average person out here. The Lord told that to Ezra, because Ezra, he was like adamant to know every like little detail, and the Lord had to, you know, kind of sit him down. Thou hast. Let me see if thou hast. Hopefully it comes up. Let me see. Hast. Nope. All right. Let's just try exceed it. I know you brothers may know what I'm speaking about. Beautiful, Barakateh Al Shah. This is Second Ezra's 4 and 34. Let me get that. Second Ezra's chapter 4. And like I said, this is, we're not getting down on the brother. We just, correcting him, because at the end of the day, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we know that the earth is not going to be burnt up. Because in order for the world, that everyone that takes a micro C hip, which is the M.O.T.B, to be burnt up, that means that the whole planet will have to be on fire. Because, you have what? There's a big percentage of the earth that is on this grid. You have remote places, in villages, down in South America, and other places around the world that have the infrastructure of the internet, of the digital system. You have places down like in Colombia and other places that their business is dealt strictly and specifically by Bitcoin. You actually have documentaries on YouTube that go into these different little remote uh, countries, these little remote villages and and towns in South America that actually deal with the internet and deal as far as finances are concerned and their businesses in Bitcoin, digital currencies. So they're not going to be burnt up, because if that's the case, then where are we going to get our slaves from? And then the scriptures speak about the nations bringing the Israelites from the four quarters of the earth, the ones that are left, after the destruction of America. You see? So this is Second Ezra chapter 4, and I'll start at 28. But as concerning the things whereof thou askest me, I will tell thee. Yeah, because the prophets always inquired, the beautiful Ecclesiastes 33:21, seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search the things that are above thy strength. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you have to remember the great knowledge and wisdom and understanding that we have, it far exceeds anything that anyone in this world has been able to receive, So it says, for as concerning the things that whereof thou askest me, I will tell thee. For the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come. Yeah, because this world is run by the wicked. This is why the consensus of the majority of the people on the planet Earth is what? They're in mourning. They're struggling. They're catching hell. While a very small percent is doing good. That small percent, or the 1%, as they call them, that's the so-called elite. The international banking families that have cornered the market all throughout the world, because they have enough money to own all of these different corporations that continually buy other corporations and ideas from people and steal ideas from people. That's why they corner in the market. Play things, corporations like BlackRock and State Street, and Vanguard, to name some of the top ones out there. They when you look at the list of the companies that they own everything. Even BlackRock owns a part. I'm sorry. Even what is that? BlackRock. Okay, you have Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. Even BlackRock, which is the top, owns a portion of State Street, and that's one of the top 3. You see, so they have everything cornered. So it says, so this place has to go down, because the evil is sown, but the destruction hasn't yet come, and getting progressively more and more wicked. That's what the Lord said through the mouth of the prophet Isaiah, that the worm is spread under thee. And then the Lord spoke to the apostle James, and it said that the Lord spoke through the apostle James and told him that the wicked, their goal is canker. The rust shall be a witness against them. It says, but the destruction thereof is not yet come, right? Because that's going to be the final analysis, the destruction of this current system, which when America goes down, that's going to be like the light switch of this whole of the Esau's whole system. America is the power pack. Once that is pulled out of the socket, all of Esau's corporation, his whole system goes down once America goes down, because this is pretty much what's holding everything together. So it says, if therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, and the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good, right? And that's the kingdom of heaven. So this place has to go before the kingdom of heaven can be established. The Vanguard Group owns approximately 9.4% of BlackRock shares. BlackRock, the company itself, holds about 6.53% of its own shares. State Street Corporation holds about 4.5% of BlackRock shares. Yeah, so they're all intermingled. Temasek Holdings owns about 3.29% of the shares. Bank of America holds about 3.12% of the shares. Yeah, because these are all different corporations that are owned by the same people, but because they are named differently, it seems like there's other owners to it, other proprietors, but that's not the case. So verse 30, so it says, for the grain of evil seed hath been sown in the heart of Adam from the beginning, and how much ungodliness hath it brought up unto this time, and how much shall it yet bring forth unto the time of the threshing come, right? So you have to remember around 500 BC, around there, when Ezra was on the scene, how evil and wicked was the world from the time of Adam. So now from that time, from the time of small tops, from the time of yeah, you're right, from the time of Ezra until now, how much more evil and wicked has the world turned? So this place is ripe for destruction. It says, ponder now by thyself how great a fruit of wickedness the grain of evil seed has brought forth. Yeah, because it's tainted the whole world. And America has been a major, a hub to push this corruption. Salaki, that's why the Lord said that that America has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken, using the kings, or the rulers of this world. And every premier, king, president, whatever they call themselves out there, they're all in the back pocket of the international bankers. They're all doing the same exact thing that America is doing, including Iran. Hate to burst your bubble, Chief, but Iran's doing what America's doing. They're going global. They're going digital, brother. You have to tap into that, my brother. It says, verse 32, and when the ears shall be cut down, which are without number, how great a floor shall they fill? Right. Because, the time of harvest, which the harvest is the end of the world, as the Lord spoke in the parable in the book of Matthew 13. So the floor is filled. Once the floor is filled, you get to what? Threshing. Whether you're threshing the wheat and separating the wheat from the tares, or whether you have a floor full of grapes in the wine press and you stomping them grapes because you have no more room. Well, it's the time of the judgment of America. The lake of fire is going to be here in America. The people that take the M.O.T.B, the micro C hip, that will be destroyed, burnt by fire, are going to be here in America. Now, what's going to happen to the people around the world, we don't know, because it doesn't give details of what's going to happen to them. And the reason why is because the main focus of prophecy in the last days is really right here in America and in the land of Israel. and the Levant, that area which they also call the Fertile Crescent, because that's going to be the scene of the final battle of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai, which the scriptures call Armageddon, which a lot of these so-called scholars don't even know what that means. They're all always equated to something carnal or physical, like Megiddo, the hill of Megiddo, and that's not what it's talking about. When you understand what the word Armageddon means, and you understand how when Yahweh Shai comes back, he's coming to make war with the armies of these nations. Isaiah 34, which the elder Mathathia just put up, a little while ago. The Lord said when he comes, Yahweh Shai comes back, he's coming to see the leaders of these nations and their armies. That's what Armageddon is all about. When you break the word Armageddon down, Armageddon in Greek, Harmageddon in the Hebrew, it means the mountain or the hill of the troops. The Lord said he mustered the hosts of the battle. So he's the one gathering and amassing all of these different troops over there in what the world calls the Middle East, the Levant, the Fertile Crescent. Why? Because the Lord is setting up the stage for this final war, and that's why it's brewing, But meanwhile, while it's brewing, on another note, you have the micro CHIP and this whole, which is the M.O.T.B, and this whole M.O.T.B system being put into place, and it's already in place. This is why they're because if it wasn't in place, then why would the Premier of England, what is his name, Keir Starmer, why would he say that you're going to have let me put it this way, you're going to have a digital ID or you can't work? If the system wasn't in place, couldn't the people say, well, that's all right, I work under the table? No, because they already have the system in place. That's why he made that statement. Because the world is transitioning from physical cash into this new digital currency. And that's, the wave of the future. That's why it says that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark. You see? And everything is being predicated upon that, the buying and selling. This is why they wanted this system in place. This is why everything went digital. That's why they closed the world down in 2020. To be able to move freely around, to establish all of these different towers, to tie this whole network together. It's the Lord making way for his prophecies to be fulfilled. All right? It says, then I answered and said, verse 33, how and when shall these things come to pass? Wherefore are our years few and evil? And he answered me, saying, do not thou hasten above the Most Highest, right? Because the prophets, they were so inquisitive that sometimes they had to get put in check. For thy haste is in vain to be above him, for thou hast much exceeded. See? So the things that we know has much exceeded anybody else out here. Any top scholar on the planet does not possess the insight of the mysteries of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua like we do. They can get into the technical, theological, and their accolades and their different certificates and all that, but they can't get into the nitty-gritty of the prophecies. To this day, you haven't heard any of these so-called scholars breaking down the book of Revelation. Outside of like certain little, things that they speak on, like, the multitude, which they botched that up. They'll attempt to try to break that down. They can't break it down because it's not given to them. None of the wicked shall understand. It's given to the prophets. And the prophets were only given a limited insight. But it's enough to get them through. So it says, for thy hasten in vain to be above him, for thou hast much exceeded, meaning you have abounded in the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the secrets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. But that's where it stops. You see? So that goes into that word secret, which is the word sathar, which the secret things belong to the Lord. And it says to hide, conceal, to be hidden, to be concealed, to hide carefully, so you get the idea pretty much. So, we don't know exactly what's going to happen to the people around the world that's going to take the micro chip, which is the M.O.T.B. But we know definitely the world and the earth is not going to be burnt up. The whole entire planet is not going to be burnt up. It's just going to be America, the land of Israel. And once America goes down, pretty much the lights go out on the rest of Esau's empire, because this is the major hub. This is like the power source. And once this goes out, that's why Yahweh said, who is this? He said it, the Lord said it. Who is this coming from Edom with dyed garments? Because that's the major hub. When you go to war, you want to take out the head. You don't want to go for lesser. You want to go straight for the head, especially if you have a master, a heavy, strong military. You're trying to go for the head. You're trying to go for the gusto, and that's Yahushua is coming to take heads and crowns. Not literally, but he's going to destroy them. Just like he's not going to literally have blood on his garments. That's just a metaphor of how much destruction he's going to bring. He said, the slain of the Lord shall be many. So with that, I pray that your brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.